to hear what he has to say about how kind of education AI is shaping the future kind of workforce skills and the implications for that as educators in primary and secondary schools. So I'm going to hand over to Eduardo, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. I am honored with this invitation. I've been educated at Tort. Actually, I'm going to share a few details about that in a few minutes, but again, I'm super happy to have this conversation. First, quick introduction about myself. I'm a computer science engineering from the ORT University here in Uruguay. Right now, I am the Dean of the School of Engineering, so I'm super proud to lead our technical organization within ORT Uruguay. It's important to say that I spent 17 years at Microsoft leading global technical teams, and that is very important and very relevant to this conversation because I have a deep technical background. And early spoiler, I've been working on artificial intelligence projects for almost 20 years, so way beyond the current trend about ChatGPT, and we're going to talk about that and referring that as a trend specifically. But again, I've been deeply involved in technical projects for almost 20 years. I've been also been a very active professor at in our university. I've been teaching software design and software architecture, so I have a deep passion for teaching and for education. And last, I'm a partner and investor in some tech companies. That is actually is a good way right now that I'm fully focused on the academia. It's a good way to have a kind of foot in the industry, in the markets outside, understanding, having that perspective about how this technology and this trend is evolving. So this is a kind of quick introduction about myself, just to provide you context. So let me propose the following agenda. We will start by overviewing the ChatGPT class technologies, let me call it that way. And within that, I will share some demos. Let's say, as a technical guy, I always think that it's important to share some technical examples and some demos in order not only to talk, but also to see some of the capabilities. So I will try to address that with the demos. Then I will talk about impact on education, our perspective, and my personal opinion about that. And then finally, we will talk about required skills in the AI era. Very important disclaimer, that is that during this presentation, and I will be clear about those, I'm going to share some personal opinions and some of the learnings that we get in practice here in ORT Uruguay. But it's responsible to say that we are all, I mean, across the world, we are all still learning and understanding, and right now it's super important, our learning mode and our flexibility and measuring what is the impact both in our teachers and our students. So this disclaimer is about all what we are going to share is about what we have learned in practice and what we have applied based on our experience. But all of this is still being developed, is still work in progress. If we are okay so far, let's start with the content itself. And actually, given that we are in November 2024, we could say that we are celebrating the second year anniversary of ChatGPT, just to making kind of fun of this. Probably we all remember back in November 2022 when this technology came up. But it's very important and very responsible to say that this was not the beginning of artificial intelligence. Every time I deliver a presentation about the impact of these current technologies, I said, hey, we have been living daily with artificial intelligence systems since 15 years ago. For sure, we don't realize, we don't think about those systems as artificial intelligence systems, but from the social networks, from the to the streaming platforms, from the maps and routing systems to the medical systems that use computer vision for helping the doctors to make the right diagnosis. All of those systems, let's say, we can say, are full of artificial intelligence. So this is not new. We have a vast technical development and knowledge on this kind of system. And in a few minutes, I will say why right now the ChatGPT class technologies have created, let's say, all the buzz that was created about it. So in order to provide a kind of broader view, when we talk about artificial intelligence, there are several fields. And this is just a few examples from computer vision, recommendation engine, optimization, segmentation. I'm not going to go in further detail, but the idea that I think that is important for all of us to get in our mind, is that artificial intelligence is way broader than specifically ChatGPT. There are a lot of fields that have different kind of applications and different kind of impacts. But moving forward, if we talk about specifically ChatGPT, we could say that is closer related with the field of natural language processing, to the field of deep learning, to the field of neural networks. And I'm pretty sure that all of these names make a sound of us. That means that we have been reading or hearing about those topics. But maybe the important thing, the one that we should underline, is what is being called transformers. I'm not going to go deep technical in the details, but it's important to say that let's say the theory that is behind the transformers technology was first stated in a paper from 2017, and that theory is the one that made possible to be developed the ChatGPT thing and its peers. And I'm going to talk about the peers too in a few minutes. So when I say why this thing is happening now, while I was saying that artificial intelligence, we could talk about systems from the last 20 years ago, well, it is so relevant because, well, actually it's kind of new because the theory that is behind it is from 2017. If we go a little bit more precisely, we should say that ChatGPT is a chatbot application. Actually, ChatGPT is just the chatbot, is the interface that could be the web interface or could be the mobile application that is built on top of what is being called a large language model. And right now, I'm trying to put all of us in context of understanding what are the right naming for the technologies. So ChatGPT is the interface that is built on a large language model that actually is being called GPT. As I said, below at the left, GPT is the LLM built by OpenAI. Actually, I could say that OpenAI, they are amazing developing artificial intelligence systems, but they are not the best putting the names of each of their products. So they make a kind of mess with GPT, ChatGPT, the GPTs. That is something else that we are going to talk later. Moving forward, we could say that those large language models are being powered or are being developed based on the transformer architecture. So far, what we have said, what we have done is making a quick introduction to put us in on where ChatGPT is. Actually, it is an interface that is based on a large language model, ChatGPT in particular, based on the large language model by OpenAI that is being called GPT. What is important, and again, is responsible, I would say, for all of us, and in the education field, is to understand that this field goes way beyond than ChatGPT. I make the introduction based on ChatGPT because it's the one that actually came first, to actually go publicly first. But when we talk about right now large language model, we could say that these 6 that I'm sharing here in the screen are the ones, the most, let's say, the most relevant ones. That is ChatGPT from OpenAI, Gemini from Google, Claude from Anthropic AI, Llama from Meta, that actually is the company's Facebook, Mistral, that is the only one that is from outside the US. Mistral is a French company, and Grok from the company X, former Twitter. So it's important to know this. We are not going to go in the details of, for sure, in the details of each of these technologies, but each of them put focus on be better on some very, very particular stuff around the large language models. But when we think about, let's say, the average performance, and we could talk about performance in terms of accuracy, how much correct the information it is, how much in some way smart the system it is, and then we will talk about how we can explain the concept of smart applied on a large language model. But if we want to have a kind of perspective of which are the most powerful, let's say, here I'm sharing a reference that you can then browse and take a look in further details. But taking a quick look at the chart that is at the right, we can see that OpenAI with GPT and its different versions, particularly Anthropic AI with Claude, those are the 2 ones that, let's say, from the last 1 year and a half are sharing the number 1 and number 2 positions. But again, to be clear, there could be some specific scenarios where there is some other large language model in this list that is better or that performs a little bit better. If I have to make a simple statement, I would say for most of the uses, in terms of leveraging this for educational purpose, ChatGPT is more than good enough. And actually, in terms of the kind of services, or actually the quality that we could get for the free layer, again, is where the best trade-off is. Moving forward, and I would like to add just one additional technical thing, but that is important for all of us to have, again, a kind of clear understanding. When we talk about when we talk about a large language model, it's kind of obvious for us that, and for sure we all have some practice, it's kind of obvious for us that we type a text, that text is being called a prompt, that goes through the large language model, that will create another text, and that will show us a response. This is the easy part. But in order to understand in further detail, let me share you the magic that is within the large language model, and it is that every text that we feed in is going to be transformed in something that is being called a token. Actually, it's a number. Sharing here a quick example. If I take the text, "What a lovely morning it is today," that text is going to be transformed in the numbers that are being shown below, that actually are being called tokens. If somebody wants to play with that later, then you have the link left down in the left. Why this is important? Because it is relevant to know that everything, even if it is an image, even if it is an audio, even if it is a video, everything that we feed in is going to be transformed into a token. Actually is going to be transformed as a vector. That number is going to be represented as a vector. Those vectors are going to be processed. That is a lot of mathematical process, and that is going to be then transformed as another set of tokens that is going to be shown as the output. An interesting reference that I want to have to have you in mind is that one token is related with approximately 0.75 words. And just keep that in mind. I'm going to connect with that in the few slides. That means that one token is not one word. One token is approximately 0.5 words. So if we think about, I promise that it's not more technical stuff beyond this, but when we think about how LLMs are evolving right now, I would say that LLMs are evolving in several different directions. And let me list a few of them. And this is, I mean, in some way, this is my list based on experience. When we think about how LLMs are evolving, well, first of all, they are evolving in terms of accuracy. And by accuracy here, we can say about reducing the number of hallucinations. Actually, the hallucinations, probably we all know, we are all aware that are the number of errors that the system can make. We probably have the experience of asking something and receiving an answer that we know that is not correct. That is what is being called hallucination, and why those hallucinations are being made is deeply based on how these systems are being developed. But the fact is that when we think about the first version of ChatGPT that was numbered as 3.5, and we compare the hallucinations with the ones that we could get here with the last version, that is the ChatGPT 4.0, where it has been reduced big time. So this is one of the ways that these systems are evolving. Also, there are some additional techniques that are being applied. For instance, something that is doing Google with its Gemini LLM technology. That is, they are doing something like running a second LLM that is doing fact checking at the same time that the first LLM is producing the answer and producing the content. That is kind of experimental, because even when that is very effective, that is at the same time very costly. Well, other areas that are relevant where the LLMs are improving, they are minimizing the biases and they are enhancing the knowledge. For sure, biases is very important, and that could be a topic to be discussed as a whole session. We are seeing this improvement in accuracy in the different releases of each of the large language models. So when we say there was one GPT version that was GPT-4, then it came GPT-4.0. So those evolutions, actually, they are reducing the number of hallucinations, minimizing the biases, and as I say, enhancing the knowledge. Second direction of evolving is what is being called context window increase. And this is why important I explained the thing about the tokens before. When we use, for instance, let's base the examples on ChatGPT. When we use ChatGPT has something that is being called the context window. What is the context window? It's the short-term memory. That means that when we start a conversation with ChatGPT, we know that it follows the context of the conversation, but it follows the context as long as the context windows it have. In the case of ChatGPT, the free version, it have a context window of 8,000 tokens. That means around 6,000 words. What that means that when we go beyond the 6,000 words, it's going to forget the first word. That is why it's being called the context window. Why the context window increase is a very important direction in terms of improving the LLMs, because the bigger the context window, the more information we can process at the same time. So for instance, if we want to analyze a few set of books at the same time, we will need a big context window. Actually, Gemini from Google is the one that is leading in this particular feature. They have a context window of 2 million tokens. Not going in detail, but just to understand what that actually the full field of technologies is moving in terms of being able to manage huge set of contexts to be analyzed at the same time. Sorry, the following direction of evolution is on multimodality, both in what we call in and out information. That means that we can provide the LLM an image and ask about that image. I'm going to show you an example of this. Or we can interact by voice. If you didn't use the voice feature in the ChatGPT application in the mobile, I would really recommend you to try it. What it is doing is converting our voice in tokens, those tokens in another tokens, and those tokens in voice. So that is what is being called multimodality. Is its ability to manage, to understand, and at the end to convert on tokens, different kind of content. The other way of evolution is what is being called small language models. That means models that are very cheap to be run, that are super optimized for some tasks. For instance, there is a new model from the last week that is super optimized in coding activities, and is as much optimized that it can be run locally on a PC or a Mac. So that means that you don't need to be connected to internet, you don't need to be paying for a service, you can run that in your PC. So this thing, actually the last version of iOS from Apple have a small language model running on in what is being called in-device. The fifth way of these systems are evolving is with tools that works on top the LLM. And a good example of this are what is being called the GPTs. I guess that all of us, we have read about the GPTs, or we have tried the GPTs because are very relevant in the education field. I'm going to show an example in 2 minutes. And the last, let's say, way of evolving of this system right now is about reasoning. It's about how make those systems solve complex reasoning problems. And actually it's very interesting because you know that we have the trend of trying to humanize the way that we think about these systems. Well, it is so much that this reasoning process is being referred to what is being called the system 2. If you have read the book Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, that is an amazing book, and that describes the 2 ways how we process information, system 1 and system 2. Well, system 1 is the quick response. That is what, for instance, ChatGPT is used to to respond in that way? Well, the reasoning systems are being based on, are being inspired on what is being described in the book as System 2, that is thinking, reflecting, analyzing, and testing the ideas before providing a response. Well, in some way, these are the different ways that these systems are evolving. And if I can share with you some quick examples for explaining what I previously mentioned, let me go here to the Explorer. So here I am in ChatGPT. For sure, it's super familiar for you. But first, I'm going to show you an example in Claude. This is not as much as popular. As I said, Claude by Anthropic AI is the second, in terms of the benchmarks, is the second ranked LLM. Actually, we are running the chat that works on top of the LLM. And I want to work to show you a super simple example. Here I have the text previously written in order to make it fast. Here you can see that I say, create an interactive dashboard to show a young programming student how the while loop works. The examples that I'm going to show you for sure are related with education. So what we are saying here is not only asking something to the LLM, but we are asking the LLM to provide an interactive experience that, for instance, in this particular case, could be something that we can share then with our students. So here you can see that just based on that instruction, what we have at the right is, you can say, while loop visualization. And if I say run, it will show you step by step how the while works. And actually we can, for instance, change the speed of the animation. And each time we ask for that, it's going to provide us with a, each time we ask, we get a different response. For instance, we can say, hey, improve the UX in order to improve the way that it looks. It's going to think again, it's going to work again, it's going to, actually what is being doing is writing the code that will serve to provide that experience. Why I'm sharing this? This is a way of visualizing how these tools are evolving in terms of the tools that work on top of the LLM. And at the same time, I'm sharing with you a good example of how we can use and leverage this in multiple education scenarios. Here you can say that it improved the visualization. Here you can say that it led us to define how many rounds we can make, we want to make in the loop. And again, we can try it. Now you can imagine how much easy this could make the experience for a student if we can share this kind of interactive tools for learning. Here is a specific example for programming, but once we understand the technology, each of us, we can model what are the best ways for using this kind of technology for our particular topics, for our particular lectures. Something very important here is that we can share this with, for instance, for our whole class. If I say publish and I copy the link, I can copying this link and providing this link with the student will get all the students to get this interactive experience. So what we have done is we create something that we can be shared, that can be shared with the students in order to provide them an interactive experience to understand a specific content. The second example that I want to share with you is about what is being called the GPTs. As I said, probably we all know what is a GPTs. Let me show you a GPT that that I have previously created that I call it multiple choice. Just as a reminder, a GPT is a kind of a specific small tool that we develop within ChatGPT that is based on a prompt and that can be reusable. That means that when I create a GPT with a specific prompt, then I can share it broadly. And actually, I will share then this GPT with all of you. So this GPT, how it works, it says select a topic, I will say the atom, and what it's going to do is create a set of multiple choice questions. So first of all, it asks me what is the level of learning, and I will say secondary. And what it's going to do is to adapt the set of questions based on my level of learning. So here you can see that it provides us with a set of questions. Let's just answer the first one. I will say first one is where located. I located in the nucleus. It's putting a lot of pressure on me right now to be correcting the answer. So for the second question, I would say whatever on purpose in order to see how it evaluate myself. And for the third, I'm going to say A. The important thing is that after I complete, it's going to correct my answers. It's going to provide. It's not only to correct, to evaluate my answers, but it's also going to explain why the answers are right or why the answers are wrong. So we can provide the student with this as a way of having a self-assessment. And that works both for us for develop this kind of assessments as well as for students for develop their own assessment. If I quickly go and show you how this is being developed, here is the configuration of the GPT. Here you can say that there are a lot of instructions that are the ones that I provided to the GPT to work, to behave that way. So I said, ask the student what is the level of learning, and then said, provide a list of questions from A to E with 4 incorrect, 1 correct. Don't provide the response, just wait for the student to answer all the questions and then complete the assessment. Again, as I said, I'm going to share this with all of you so then you can try it. So actually we put that in the chat. Please don't play with this right now. Follow me in the presentation, and after you can use and try, and actually if you want, share the GPT with the students. Last quick thing I want to show you in real, that is a tool that is being called Notebook ML. Again, this is a tool that is being built on top of several LLMs. That's why I call about the tooling on top of the LLMs. And this tool that is developed by Google allows you to provide a lot of different sources, up to 50 different sources. Here I provide the tool with 3 PDF papers and with a YouTube video. All of those are related to how LLMs are being used in medicine. So after I provide all the content, I can ask questions, and I have a question here previously written. Here it is. I'm sorry that I have the answer in Spanish, but we can ask questions about the content, and the answer is going to be based on the full set of content that I have provided. So in terms of research, in terms of studying, it's a great tool in order both assessment as well as approaching the content in a different way. And the last thing that I want to share with you in this example is that this tool, as a way of different approach to the content, creates a artificial podcast based on the summary of all the content. Let me show you a quick sample of this.
Like AI. It kind of sounds like something you'd see in a sci-fi movie, right?
Yeah.
But with all this buzz about large language models or LLMs, you know,
Right.
that future might be closer than we think.
This is a podcast that is artificially created. Both the script as well as the voices are artificial, and that podcast is going to cover the full set of content that we have provided the tool. Again, it's a different way of approaching how to leverage the technology. So we have seen a quick view of, let's say, some of the tools. I showed you these tools just as a way of inspiring on the different usages that we could get. But probably one of the most important concepts that I would like to share in this presentation, and after spending almost 2 years talking about this kind of technology, this is one of the things that make me be more focused about, is that these tools have an incredible potential. But in order to get the most of that potential, it's very important to understand what are the details of those capabilities, what I put here as the core unit of capability. Because based on that understanding is that then we could apply the technology for our specific scenarios. And what we find is that if we have the conversation with 10 different people that use this every day, probably the scenarios where they get the most from the technology are different from those 10 different persons. So having said that, let's move to impact on education. And for sure we are having this conversation, but because we all know that that's real and that is happening now. So if we can list the areas and the topics where this impact is happening, where this impact is happening in writing and thinking, because now we have a tool that helps us a lot on writing, but the very relevant risk here is that what if students are not using as a helper, but are using as a way of shortcutting the way that they write and the way that they think. This is having a huge impact in the essays and homework, because for sure students will use that when they work at home. On the side of us, the teacher, this have a huge potential and opportunity in terms of how we prepare content. This makes us rethink how we evaluate. At the same time, we can use the technologies as a way of assisted learning. The example about the while is just a small example, but relevant example in terms of showing how we can leverage the technology for providing new experiences for the student, both in class and out of class. And this also makes us think about what skills are required right now for learning, and at the same time, what skills are required for the workforce. This put us in the conversation of how we can train both teachers and students to make the most about the technology. And as I said, that's easy to say, very, very hard to implement. So when we think about teachers and student training, let me say what I think that are the must-knows. Again, easy to say, hard to implement. But the must-knows are, what are the tools capable of? What are the tools capable of? And when I say about this, is, for instance, teachers should know what are the GPTs, how to create a GPTs. Teachers must know how you can provide, for instance, ChatGPT with a file, with an Excel file, and how you can make data analysis based on that Excel file. I said this example because in different surveys, it's been shown that more than 60% of the teachers don't know that they can attach a file, either an Excel file for data analysis or a PDF for extracting information or creating a questionnaire based on that PDF. At the same time, it's very important to understand the risk and the limitations. For instance, and very relevant, the limitation about the hallucinations and how it is important to validate every content or every answer that is being provided by each of the tools. And last, it's very important to be clear about what it means to be responsible and ethical about the way that we use the tools. And with this, we move to the last part of the presentation, that is about the skills that I think that are really important, both for students as well as for the future workers. And I will put this in terms of a few examples, few references actually. First one is about curiosity and learning. And if you ask me personally, and having my daughter with 14 years old, this is the one that worries me the most. And this is about how to help our students to develop their curiosity and their learning agility. Once you develop your curiosity, you get the thing about don't stop with the first answer of the tool. Let's go deep in terms of the content. Let's provide different sources. Let's investigate different ways of how develop and build on the knowledge. The willingness to learn from failures and to understand why it happened, the unexpected outcomes. The enthusiasm for understanding, the passion for learning, the passion for getting new knowledge. I think that if you ask me to just pick one, this is the first that I share, because this is the one that I would pick. The second one is what is called critical integration skills, the ability to critically analyze that, as we previously mentioned, is very relevant in terms of to understand that these tools can make mistakes, these tools can hallucinate. We have to be critical about the content. Actually, right now we have to be critical about every content that we see, because we know how these tools, at the same time, have very positive uses, it has some negative uses, like creating fake content. So we have to be critical about everything that we see. We have to develop the ability to verify the correctness and the accuracy of the content. So this is very relevant for the students, as well as this is very relevant in terms of the workforce. The following is about what is being called prompt engineering, and how we communicate the things. And by prompt engineering, I'm not talking about a specific profession. I think that is not a profession. This is a skill. And this is a skill related with how much effective we could be providing clarity with the tool about what we know. And we have realized through the time that this is a very important skill in different fronts, because when we develop this skill of being super clear about what we want, what are the expected outcomes, let me say that, for instance, this is very important for a LLM in order to provide the right answer, as well as it's very important if we have a leadership position and we need to be clear with our team about what we are expecting. So these skills are very related, but the underlying stuff is how we provide clarity, how we could be clear about the outcomes that we expect, and how we can communicate that effectively. The last skill that I want to mention is about innovation and creative problem solving. As we mentioned, as we said before, these tools are super powerful. Each tool, each LLM have different capabilities. The challenge and the opportunity that is set on us is about how we can understand which are those capabilities, and on top of that, how we can integrate, how we can solve problems that have a higher level of complexity, leveraging and integrating the different tools. So the 4 skills that I said, and I put that in several details in each of the bullets in order for you to then having a review and hopefully being helpful for you on that. Curiosity and learning, critical integration skill, prompt engineering and communication, that is about clarity, innovation, and creative problem solving. So with that, we are arriving to the summary, and then we have some few minutes for question and answer. And the first important thing that I would like to have to leave in our mind is that AI does have a big impact on education. And I would say in education and in every task and every industry. But let's narrow this conversation in education. And an important fact that I would like to add is that it have an even impact even if there is no further progress from when we are right now. And I mention this because there are a lot of discussion about are we going to reach what is being called AGI, artificial general intelligence? Well, my point here, in order to be super practical, is it doesn't matter if this technology is going to get us to AGI. What it matters to us is that right now, the tools, as we have them at this moment, have a big impact in education. Second, super obvious, but at the same time, relevant and hard to implement, training teachers and students in terms of how to know the details, how to make the most of the technology, how to understand what is the impact, but at the same time, what is the potential. And last, how to work on new or adapted, because at the end, there's also new skills, but are adaptations, evolution of those skills that are essential, as we say, both for students as well as for the workforce. Last, this field is evolving super, super fast. So it's important to be up speed. How much this change from one year to the other is huge. And some stuff that we could say, hey, well, this technology doesn't solve this kind of a scenario pretty well. It could happen that in 3 months or in 6 months, it completely change. So we need to understand that this requires us to be up speed. Having said that, I hope that this provide you some insightful ideas and understanding on how AI is impacting and the opportunity that this is creating for us. And I'm open for questions. And also together with the question, that is my email. So if you want more information about what I have shared, readings related with that, or details about the examples that I share, I'm more than welcome to answer that.
Thank you very much. Can you hear us here?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we're open for questions. If anybody's got, yeah, hold on. Let's go to Joe first.
I enjoyed your session. To ask you,
Sorry, I cannot hear you. Sorry, there is no audio.
How about me? Can you hear me? Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Your session was very nice. I'd like to just know the title of the article that you mentioned about the type of AI called transformers for the one that was published in 2017.
Yes, perfect. That is being called Attention is All You Need. I can write the name of the paper is Attention is All You Need, and it is from researchers from Google.
High tech. Yeah.
I typed it in the chat.
Okay, Eduardo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, Eduardo, thank you very much for the explanation. I actually enjoy every single minute. It is actually delighting to know more in depth how the AI works behind the scene and refresh some of the concept about the tokens and the vector that's actually help us to open the mind. But my question is actually in terms of the notebook LM. I know it's a pretty new tool that was launched recently within the 3 months before, something like that. I was thinking that is there any possibility that I know that we can load, sorry, a lot of data over PDF, voices, video, and much more. Do you know if there's a way to create tools similar to the quiz that you did? You know, like tooling on top of those notebook LM in the future. Is that possible?
Sorry, I didn't get the last part of the question. Can you repeat the question
Yes,
itself?
I mean, since we're creating in notebook LM over pool of information with different sources, is it possible in the future, maybe now, are you working in creating something like a tooling on top of your own resources that you upload to kind of create quizzes or optimize that information? Because I know you can do it like you show us based on cloud. But you have any idea if it was possible to do it maybe in the future with the personal information?
Yes, but in Notebook ML, you can provide all your personal information that you want. So for instance, let's say that you have some papers that you have wrote. You can add those papers, you can upload those papers, those PDF, and you can ask it to provide a questionnaire or a summary or a specific task based on the content of those papers.
But you're not tooling right now over your own. Can
But
you
what do
create
you?
tools over your own information? Because
Well,
Notebook LM is amazing, but it's just
Mhm.
restricted to the tools it has, like generating the audio, ask questions, prepare
Um,
summaries. Are you able to create tools like tooling over that specific information you're uploading?
what kind of tool are you
For
thinking
example,
about?
the quiz one, like you can create your own quizzes.
Okay, perfect. You can do that. Let me change the approach to how to solve it. You can do that within a GPT. So within a GPT, you see
Uh-huh.
an example that I show. Let me very quick show you this. Here I have the GPT that I have created. Okay, that we saw before. I can add files to this GPT. Here I have the option, sorry, it is in Spanish, but we say that load file loading, okay? So I can create this GPT that is for creating multiple choice quizzes, and you can add files and you can instruct the GPT to base all the questions just on the files that you have added. So actually, in order to solve the scenario that you propose with a GPT is more than enough.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Perfect. And if you want further detail on that, you can send me an email. I'm sure I can help you with that.
Got time for one more question if anyone has. Okay. In that case, Professor Eduardo, thank you very much for joining us. Your insights were incredibly insightful. I particularly enjoyed the like the live demonstrations of the different tools. And I really didn't know that the visualizer in Claude, and watching Claude program away was especially interesting. So thank you very, very much for joining us this afternoon, and letting us have an insight into your expertise. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope that it was useful for you. I will share you the slides, and again, every additional question that you have, and we're more than happy to answer those.